Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video, we will be searching for the crash site and wreckage of a fighter jet that went down in the late 70s around Area 51. There's also a couple potential UFOs I captured on film we can take a look at. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Area 51 and S4 have always been on the top of the list for controversial activities and legends. From black budget flight programs to the UFO lore that surrounds it, it will forever be engraved with mystery. It birthed whistleblower testimonies of former ex-employees like Bob Lazar, who had claimed to work on the ET craft at the S4 installations, Victor, who released alleged alien interview tape, Lockheed senior scientist Boyd Bushman in his deathbed confession, Dan Burrish and Bill Uhouse, who both claim to have worked closely with an ET named J-Rod, and many more. It is truly a fascinating place, and flight life that surrounds it is just as interesting. So when I come out here, I've noticed they usually fly F-15s in the late afternoon or evening time. The airspace is all shared, as this whole area is classified as the Nellis Range Complex. That includes the Nellis Air Force Base, Area 51, the Tonopah Test Range, Creech Air Force Base, and more. The footage you're watching now of the high-altitude F-15 training I took in a desert section near the front gate pull-off, right off the ET highway, just south of Hancock Summit. Area 51, Groom Lake, and the Tonopah Test Range are widely known for their developing of secret aircraft. Here's some of the aircraft that were made public that were either created or test flown out of the Area 51 test site. Mind you, these are only the aircraft we know about. In 1954, during the Cold War, at Groom Lake, Clarence Kelly Johnson and his team at Lockheed Skunk Works developed a radical new design, an aircraft capable of soaring the edge of space. They called it the U-2. The U-2 could climb to altitudes above 70,000 feet, higher than any Soviet fighter of the era. It photographed missile bases, airfields, and nuclear sites with cameras so precise they could actually read the license plates of cars. In July 1956, the U-2 conducted its first flight over the Soviet Union. The pilot wore a pressurized spacesuit because of the extremely thin atmosphere at altitude. Pilots often needed a chase car on the runway to guide them in because takeoffs and landings were difficult. The long wings made it unstable at low speeds. In 1960, Francis Gary Powers was shot down over Soviet territory, exposing the U-2's hidden existence. Despite that, it had been badged the plane too good to die, and for good reason. It's still in service more than 65 years after its first flight, longer than many of the aircraft that came after it. In the 60s, the race for intelligence moved forward. After the U-2 had been shot down, a new aircraft was requested, one that was faster, flew higher, and stealthier than its predecessor. This task also fell onto the genius of Clarence Kelly Johnson. His team built the A-12 Oxcart. Designed to cruise above 80,000 feet at speeds over Mach 3, the A-12 would evolve to the SR-71 Blackbird, now with a crew of 2. It was so fast it could outrun enemy missiles. Retired in the 90s, it still holds the official speed and altitude records for a manned, air-breathing jet aircraft. It was fired upon more than 1,000 times, intercepted by other aircraft, but not once shot down, always able to elude enemies due to its speed. As the Cold War progressed, missiles were becoming more sophisticated. Clarence Kelly Johnson was called on yet again, this time to create something faster than the SR-71. The D-21 drone is what emerged. Capable of flying at Mach 3.3, the D-21 was a pilotless drone launched from the back of a modified A-12 called the M-21. In 1966, however, a drone collided with its M-21, killing one crewman and ending airborne launches. It was then shifted to modified B-52 bombers. It flew missions over China in the early 70s, searching for nuclear tests, but results were mixed. Some camera capsules were never recovered, and others landed in the ocean. By 1971, the program was quietly retired. In the mid-70s, defeating radar itself was shaping to be the new end goal. Using computer models based on Soviet radar research, they designed an aircraft made strictly of angles and flat panels. Have Blue was its name. 2 prototypes were secretly built and flown from the dry lake bed at Groom Lake. Test pilots described them as unstable and difficult to fly, however they were elusive to radar. Both prototypes unfortunately were lost in crashes, one due to a fire and the other from a landing gear failure. The secrecy was so tight, though, that the wreckage was buried deep in the Nevada desert to hide it ever existed. Have Blue was only about 60% the size of its successor, the F-117. In the late 70s, the new direction was indeed shaping. A team led by Ben Rich took place at Lockheed Skunk Works, a fighter where neither speed nor altitude was needed, instead invisibility. Tested under the highest secrecy at Area 51, the F-117 Nighthawk was born. First flown in 1981, the F-117 was the world's first operational stealth aircraft. Each Nighthawk cost about $42 million to produce in the 1980s. It was nicknamed the Wobblin' Goblin for its unusual handling. It was revealed to the world in 1988, 7 years after it had already entered service. It flew combat missions in Panama and later in the Gulf War. So we were lucky enough to see a couple Nighthawks flying around out here, and we saw them depart from behind the mountain range that Groom Lake sits behind. I've seen these two out here quite often flying around, so I'm pretty sure they're designated to the base of Area 51. And getting this little flyby out there was super cool. This is the only place I've seen these flying around. Supposedly they were taken out of service in 2008, except for a very few which were left in service, 2 of which reside here in Area 51. So I will replay this clip because I caught something unusual in the sky going back over the footage. Maybe some of you caught it the first round, but if not, I will highlight it here for you to check out. Now what makes this capture super interesting is Area 51 is restricted airspace. So that means nothing is flying around without permission. Not commercial or private aircraft, drones, anything like that. Now of course there's always the chance of it being some sort of balloon, military drone, or weather instrumentation device. It does move from the east to the northwest at a pretty good pace. It also doesn't seem to have the shape or build as a balloon would. It seems more oblong or disc shaped to me. Now I have captured things like this multiple times, and it always seems to be around military aircraft. Whether it's flight training or air shows, they always seem to be around, almost if they're watching or keeping an eye on things. So here's the object I captured. Unfortunately, I did not see it at the time of filming, only on playback. Otherwise, I probably would have focused more on that than the F-117s. So here it is zoomed in and slowed down. To me it does look like it's kind of spinning or has some sort of distortion, which could of course be side effects of the atmosphere or the distance in the camera. But if not, it makes me think of the stories told by Charles Hall about the tall whites who, according to him, are a race of ET beings that live out in the Nevada Test Site desert just above Indian Springs. Charles stated that these beings have a few different types of ships, one being a scout craft, which is roughly the size of a small school bus. He described it as metallic and cylindrical in shape. However, when it was powered on, it formed some sort of distortion around it. Bob Lazar had a similar story about when he worked on the sport model out there. He said at certain angles, it would bend the light around it, making it almost invisible. Could that be the reason it seems difficult to capture UFOs in high quality with digital cameras? I decided to get on Google Earth and scour the terrain in hopes of finding something unusual. Hopefully, potential crafts that match Charles Hall's descriptions. Here's a few odd things I found. Keep in mind, most of these sites don't have roads leading up to them. And I'm sure the military has airbrushed out the good stuff on Google Earth. These objects, of course, could just be military trash or debris, but still worth looking into. There's a ton of these sites scattered throughout the restricted area. They're referred to as the tall white rest areas. I think there's around 20 of them. It kind of makes you curious on if that sheet lifts up, leading to an underground facility of some sort. So while camping and looking at the sky out there, I got this Starlink launch. It's a nice little surprise. It was launched off the coast of California and visible here. Later on in the video, an unknown object does pop up next to it right above the mountaintops, and I'm not sure what it could be. I will post a full clip in an upcoming video, and you guys can give me your opinions on it. I also filmed this little guy around 1 a.m. in the morning. I'm not sure what it is. It does make a 180-degree turn. It was relatively slow as the footage is sped up. It could be an aircraft, although it has no lights on it, which wouldn't be uncommon for a military aircraft, especially in restricted airspace, but it could be reflecting the moonlight. And just a reminder, you may be watching the skies out here, but Area 51 is always watching you watch the skies. So to get to this crash site, we take the ET highway west just past Rachel, Nevada. Since this crash is close to the back gate of Area 51, we decided to stop there to get some footage. So this is known as the front gate. Usually when you see people at Area 51, this is the gate they're in front of. This is on the west side of Rachel. This gate seems to win the popularity contest because it's more known about. Personally, I like the back gate better. It seems like more activity takes place there and it's kind of slept on. So after hanging out at the front gate, we had to backtrack a little bit to take the trail we needed to get to this crash site. As we started the road, we were able to see the front gate from a distance. Anders then caught that the cameras were now facing us up on the hillside, which they weren't before when we were down in front of the gate. So naturally, we decided to hang out and watch for a bit. Here's the camo dude rolling up to the front gate. Instinctively, we thought he was coming to keep an eye on us, but it turns out he just hung out behind the fence for quite a while. Here's the cameras all pointed at us, filming us while we're filming them. If you ever get a chance, check out the Dreamland Resort website. Jörg Arnu is the creator. If you want to look up things like crash sites, locations, pretty much everything to know about what's made public about Area 51, this is the site to check out. Onward and upward to our crash site destination. So this is called the Stewart Well Road Gate. As you can see, the gate is pretty new. Apparently there used to not be a physical gate here at all. So we had to climb this little trail up the side of a mountain. The trail wasn't too bad. However, I wouldn't recommend attempting it in a car. It was a little bit rocky. In the late 1950s, a new kind of fighter thundered itself into the skies, the McDonnell F-4 Phantom II. Born from a Navy requirement, it was large, fast, and versatile. Two J-79 engines pushed it past Mach 2, and with powerful radar and missiles, the Phantom was designed to hopefully dominate the Cold War battlefield. First flying in 1958, the Phantom quickly proved itself as a record setter, smashing 16 world records for speed, altitude, and climb. By the mid-60s, it was adapted not just by the Navy, but also the Air Force and Marines, becoming one of the rare jets to serve all across three branches. Among its many versions, the F-4D stood out. Entering service in 1966 with the U.S. Air Force, the D model introduced modernized avionics, improved radar, and the ability to fire precision-guided munitions. It was a huge leap forward, turning the Phantom from a blunt missile carrier into a more flexible strike fighter. In the skies over Vietnam, F-4Ds flew everything from air superiority missions to bombing raids. But they also learned a hard lesson. Early Phantoms lacked an internal gun, forcing pilots into dogfights armed only with missiles, often unreliable in combat. The U.S. military lost a total of 678 F-4 Phantoms during the Vietnam War, with 533 being combat losses and 156 non-combat losses. The F-4 Phantom was the fixed-wing aircraft with the most losses of any nation during the conflict. This led to the birth of advanced training schools like the Navy's Top Gun, where Phantom crews sharpened their edge. The Phantom could carry 18,000 pounds of weapons, nearly as much as a World War II heavy bomber. With smoke trails steaming from its engines, crews affectionately nicknamed it the Smoky Joe. The F-4D was the first Phantom equipped to deliver laser-guided bombs, pioneering modern-day strike precision. More than 5,000 Phantoms were built, serving not just the US, but also allies like Britain, Israel, Germany, and Japan. The F-4 Phantom II aircraft were also flown by the Blue Angels from 1969 to 1974. The specific model used, however, was the F-4J Phantom II. The F-4 Phantom II, and especially its F-4D variant, became symbols of raw power and adaptability. From Cold War alert pads to dogfights over Southeast Asia, it was a fighter that earned respect and a permanent place in aviation history. So after taking the trail coming up the mountain, we finally came across the crash site. Apparently this F-4 was part of a 6-plane flight. The group set up to fly a low-level target approach inside the Nellis Range, but with good weather and clear skies, disaster did unfortunately strike. As the flight descended for low-level penetration, the F-4 came from the east at high speeds, around 340 knots, with the throttle at 96%. As the aircraft descended, it ended up impacting a ridge with the tip of its left wing. It continued flying with the damaged wing and impacted the next ridge, sending pieces of it over half a mile. Both the 29-year-old pilot and 29-year-old navigator were both killed. After inspection, it was found no mechanical failure or in-flight fire was present. It also showed the pilot tried to pull an evasive maneuver to avoid the crash. Because of its remote location, most of the wreckage was left there. The crash happened on March 7, 1979 at around 2:20 p.m. during the exercise Red Flag 79-4 out of Nellis Air Force Base. It was part of the 388th Tactical Fighter Wing out of Hill Air Force Base in Utah. Looking at the wreckage scattered across the desert from a once flying F-4 Phantom, it's crazy to see this once piece of aviation forgotten in history. With how much flight activity, including flight tests and flight training there is here, it's no surprise of planes going down. It is unfortunately a sad reality because many pilots have lost their lives, especially around the desert that surrounds this area. Here's a list of the F-4 crashes that have taken place in this vicinity. And rest in peace to the pilots who have lost their lives. Here's a page off the Dreamland Resort website, which goes in further detail about the F-4D crash site that we came across. Here is a potential crash site I will be investigating in the future. It could be something interesting, or it could just be rock or dirt formation, but it doesn't seem to match the terrain around it, which leaves it questionable. As you can see, we had some visitors watching us, which isn't surprising seeing how close we were to the Area 51 border. So my buddy was telling me stories where he heard of camo dudes getting into people's cars when they weren't there. We decided to test out this theory. Since we were taking this trip in my vehicle and leaving his car behind, I decided to set up one of my trail cams focused on his car to see if any of the camo dudes messed with it when we were gone. When we got back, we checked the footage and saw that the camo dudes were heading up the trail right behind us. However, they did not stop to get into his car, so that's always good news. Hope you enjoyed the video, and thanks for watching.